for tuning in this morning to ride the wave with us. Each week, our goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. My name's Phil George. I'm a clinical biochemist, a certified personal trainer, and a health coach. Please remember, everything we discuss in the show is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. However, we're not going to be giving much medical advice today. We are going to be giving some tennis tips because I'm here with one of the top tennis coaches in New England, and this is Coach Kane.
Thanks.
Welcome to Wellness Wave Radio, Coach Kane.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So we're going to talk about, May is what?
National Tennis Month.
Yeah.
And the idea behind the National Tennis Month is to grow the game of tennis. As you know, and I know, tennis is one of the more healthier sports. And because of that, and because of the value of tennis, and of course I'm kind of partial to tennis, as you know. But anyways, it's National Tennis Month, and the USTA is sponsoring free clinics to people all over the United States. You can bring a friend. You can hit the fit to hit. You can do cardio tennis. There are prizes, so it's a big thing.
Right, and the other thing is if people want to find out where to go, you can just go to USTA and they'll list all of the or you can email me philgeorge@charter.net and I'll send you over that. So if you're thinking about taking up tennis, then I think now is a good time. In fact, Jim, you and I go way back, and how we met. Do you remember how we met?
Yeah, I sure do. It was at New Kitchen.
Yeah.
And I have one at home. I almost wore it today. It was a PTR hat.
You have the shirt.
And I have the shirt. And you came up to me and you mentioned, how's Mr. Vandermeer doing?
Yeah.
By the way, Dennis Vandermeer, who passed away a couple years ago, inducted in the Hall of Fame about a year ago. Now we have, by the way, he was a pioneer. He decided to have the best coaches, they need to be certified. And so I'm a certified instructor, PTR, for 36 years. And now I joined 23,000 all over the world certified instructors.
Right, and the other thing we talked about, it was funny because was also they found out, and I think the new slogan now for the USTA is, what is it? What's the slogan, Jim?
Something about the healthiest sport. Tennis is the healthiest sport, and they have done research, as you know, and they claim that if you play tennis, you could your lifespan could be less than 5 years.
No, more than 5 years.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
If you play coach with Coach Kane, you'll be less than 5 years because he's gonna wear you out. But that whole thing, actually, that's true. They found out, actually, not only tennis, it's any racket sport. They found on the average that people that play racket sports, that could be pickleball. We're going to talk about pickleball. Mm-hmm. So if you hate tennis, we're going to talk about pickleball. So don't worry about that. So stay tuned. Don't turn off your TV. The other thing is actually even table tennis, because one of the reasons is what happens is, well, first of all, I got my 4 pillars of health, Jim. I don't expect you to remember that. So one of them is nutrition. Other one is exercise. Mm-hmm. The third one is sleep, and the fourth one is community. Now, you may say to yourself, well, why do you care about community? So Jim's heard this expression from me many times. We're really just smart monkeys. You've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
So we share 99% of our DNA with a chimpanzee. So, we're a lot more like a chimpanzee than anything else. And I think Jim will say I'm probably even 99.9% chimpanzee, but we won't go there. So anyway, so what happens is, there's an expression in biology that says nothing makes sense in biology except through the lens of evolution. So what that means is basically, again, we've been around for millions of years. We've only lived like this for the last 100 years like this. Food 24/7, cars, lights, all the rest of this stuff. So we're really hardwired, basically, as a herd animal. We're a group. We're in groups. So what happens, so let's say But they found out that our ancestors, Jim, we went like in small groups, maybe 10, 15 of us, and we would be like chimpanzees, right? They're in small groups. The gorillas, they're in, monkeys, they're in small groups. And the reason chimpanzees are in groups, because if they have a leopard coming after them, right? You get 5 chimpanzees against the leopard, you got pretty good odds, because you ever see chimpanzees, they got big canines, they can bite. But one chimpanzee versus a leopard, no contest, right?
Yeah.
So we feel safer because we're 99% chimpanzee, Jim, right? We feel safer in groups. So subconsciously, you're really thinking, I don't feel safe unless I'm around other people. So we need socialization. Community, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And then they found out, especially as people get older, not young people like us, Jim, but the older people, So what happens is we get to socialize, we get our brain work, we go back and forth. You and I, we spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and we just talk back and forth, and people come over, and and it's fun. And so one of the reasons, obviously, with tennis or pickleball, is you're going to have groups of people.
Yes. In fact, I was taking a lesson in pickleball yesterday, and the gentleman who owns Pickleball University, Gary Galonick, he was a wonderful teacher. But it wasn't long ago, well, it was long ago, 40 years ago, Gary's in my class, room 230. He was one of my students. And that's the beautiful part about coaching with students. In fact, I love John Wooden when he recited the poem, Why Do I Teach? And as the poem goes on, because where could I find more splendid company? I look at the young man, like Gary, room 230, I knew he was going to be somebody. You could almost sense it. And he said, look at, in my classroom or on my team, I have a farmer, a lawyer, a doctor, and this is John Wooden reciting this poem. I couldn't recite one line of it, although I think I just did. But when I was with Gary, he became the teacher, and he was an outstanding teacher. When I put my foot in that kitchen in pickleball, he caught me. No, you lost the point. Your big piggy was in the kitchen. So I was honored to be in his presence. And by the way, he mentioned the community. There are times where there's 20 pickleball players, and they end up it becoming a social aspect. And that's one thing I have to say before I keep talking and you kick me, is the simple fact that I was out playing the game. I warmed up for 1 minute. But the reason why pickleball is so popular, forget this deferred gratification. I wouldn't have to be practicing my serve for 50 years. Right away, I was out there competing with Gary, with Gary's wife, with Gary's wife's brother, who I taught basketball to. I was his coach. So anyways, you're right about community.
Right. The other thing, Jim, people out there, so obviously exercise is so important in terms of what you're doing. So, and one of the things is, good example, my wife hates to exercise. So, and a lot of people don't like going to the gym. In fact, you're one of those people that don't like going to the gym. This guy here, I'll tell you, I got him into Planet Fitness. And how many times have you been to Planet Fitness in the last couple of months, Jim?
Not enough. Although I was there a couple days ago, and I did like that vibrating chair.
See, he goes sit down and he goes on the chair. Doesn't. But anyway, the point I'm making is what happens. And I coached, if I can see it here, Becker College. Yeah, I coached the Becker College men's team. I coached the Worcester State. That's why Jim and I talk a lot about tennis, even though I'm not really playing anymore because I got a bad hip. It'll wear out sooner. But one of the things that I found is, in terms of even in coaching people, is you get so much satisfaction out of it, in terms of coaching. But the point I wanted to make with the pickleball, because I can't be running a lot because my hip will wear out sooner, I decided to try the pickleball. So I checked out the Greendale Wide, and in fact, what I did is when they went to the Greendale Y, the class was right in the middle. In other words, they were halfway through the class. So I talked to the person in charge, and I said, look, I'm a tennis instructor. I've seen pickleball. It's the same strokes. It's pretty much the same, similar. I know you're gonna.
No.
It's similar. I said, I can do this. I know I can do it. So I looked at the scoring, and sure enough, I went into the middle of the class, and I hate to say it, I was the best player in there because I was doing it. And we're going to get into this later. But Jim, let me just back up. So this is going to be a two-part. We're going to do one right now, and then we're going to do a second half later. Jim's going to introduce, and one of his students, Brooke, and we have a video of her, and we have a new teaching technique. But Jim, I think we'll save that for the second half because Art's ready to go. I want to give Brooke enough time, and I want to finish this conversation because Jim and I were talking. We always ad lib on this stuff. We never when we start this stuff, we have no idea where we got notes. We haven't looked at them once. So once we get off on these things, it just goes. It goes wherever it goes. So if you're a tennis player and you can't play tennis like me for whatever reasons, give pickleball a try. It's an awful lot of fun and great community. We got two places and they're pretty far apart. So we had Ben on the show from Route 12 Pickle. He was on here. We talked about that. You have somebody out in
Gary Gilonic.
He's out in Sturbridge.
Pickleball U.
What I loved about it, I haven't been to Sturbridge, but I've been to Route 12 Pickle, and Gary may wind up being on the show, hopefully.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, and he'll be on it. So it's hopefully they're not really competing because they're almost at opposite ends. But I haven't been out to Sturbridge. But what I really liked about Route 12 Pickle, what I loved about tennis, when you used to play at the Paxton Tennis Club, afterwards you'd get up there with your friends, you'd have a couple of beers, and you'd watch and criticize everybody else playing. See that backhand, so or this, and it was really a lot of fun. And just like golf, you make a lot of really good business connections. You get to meet a lot of people. And that's what I found when I was growing up. I was the poorest guy at that tennis club. But one thing I had going for me, Jim, they called it a ladder in tennis. In other words, you go up, the higher you up when you're playing, you play other people, and you could be the number one in the ladder. And I was up there pretty high, so even though I had no money, I basically, at least I was a good tennis player. So a lot of people that were very successful wanted to play tennis with me, and I became a tennis instructor. And that led to a lot of other stuff because these are people that normally wouldn't spend the time of day with me, but now because I'm a good tennis player, they would do it. So you get to meet a lot of really good players.
Connections. When Gary introduced me to Krista, who's the event planner, and I may be connecting with Krista, and you know why? Because we have an event down the road, and I'm talking about the battle of the ages, sexes, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not going to trash talk, but it's going to be this old guy against two young female baristas from New Kitchen. And we're friends, and we're good friends. And I'm interested in their life. One at least, for example, is working at a veterinarian complex. I believe it's Grafton. And then you got Freddie working in a bank, and we talk about mortgages, and she likes that. But the part-time, they're in New Kitchen. And, Coach, guess what? I went into pickleball, and we're getting good at pickleball. We're playing pickleball. Oh, I want to challenge you. You two against Coach Kane. And Gary knows about it. Krista, the event planner, knows about it. And that's one of the reasons why I was there. I promised I wouldn't practice more than 3 times. But I needed to see if I could compete. You know what the answer is?
Yeah, and speak for you, Jim. Jim. We don't have the video of you, but Jim had shown me basically some of his strokes, and I was impressed. We're going to show the second half of this show. We'll have Brooke, and because that guy, I'm a tennis coach. Jim's a tennis coach, and so we can tell by just the stroke how that. In fact, I was a USTA Raider. Okay, and what that means is. I was trained by the USTA to go out there and watch people. And like you, I could watch 5 minutes of somebody and I could give them a rating, 3.0. I could just tell at the strokes what the deficiency was. And Jim does this all the time. In fact, if you, oh, this is a good time. It's tennis month. Jim's got very limited time, so I can't make any promises. But Jim, and in fact, Jim's given me a couple of tennis lessons, so I can vouch for that. He's got a great thing. He's got these little ball machine, and he'll go and he'll watch you. So if you want to do like a car, if you want to do a tune-up, here's a guy, and you're going to eventually have a thing. You'll be able to actually videotape yourself, send it over to Jim, and Jim will do a critique of that.
Video analysis.
And the video analysis. So you don't even have to meet with him, because he's a tough guy. You don't want to be no, he's great.
But now that you mention that, it wasn't that long ago that Johnny Yandel, famous name in tennis, what he did, he took high-speed film. He could break it down each frame. The naked eye was lying to tennis enthusiasts, tennis participants. It was actually lying. When they saw Federer, they went, oh, I can do that. And they went like this. But no, you break it down. And I saw someone break it down for me when I was in Stanford University. I'll never forget it. Come here in the shade, young man. No, he didn't say young man. I'm fibbing about that. He said, come in the shade. But he said, now look at how I'm going to slow Federer down. Look at, we think he's doing this, but he's going out, straight arm, then he's doing that. So Johnny Yandel, and rest his soul, passed away this past year. I still subscribe to his teaching app.
But Jim, the other thing was, when we meet at New Kitchen, a lot of times there's a physician, a doctor, right, that sends you videos, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So a little bit obsessed.
Yeah. So he was obsessed because he wants
to be perfect.
He wants to be the perfect, the Federer or whatever forehand. And Jim showed me the video. So what happens is this is slow motion stop action. So when they're going through the start and they come like this, he can stop. And then they can draw things around it. We're going to show that on the second half
drawing
of this.
Tools.
Drawing tools. Yep. See, your racket head is maybe too much, a quarter of an inch this way or a quarter of an inch that way. I remember seeing, now they're going to put you out of business, artificial intelligence analysis. I remember seeing, this is years ago, swimmers, and they put them in this giant tank. And they would see by them changing their one stroke this amount, or if you're running this amount, if you just change that one little thing, it could add 5 or 10 miles. In fact, our good friend Coach Paul Reynolds, he's been on the show a couple of times.
Speed and strength.
Speed and strength. In fact, about Paul. Email me, philgeorge@charter.net, if you have somebody out there that wants to improve. So he's not a coach specifically like a tennis coach or a baseball coach or a football coach. What he is basically, he just makes you a little bit better.
Stronger,
quicker, and the correct thing. So what happens is all professional athletes have this. They get a nutritionist, and Tom Brady had Alex Guerrera, as in very specific type of motion. So Paul will take you and he'll make you a little bit better. So he had mentioned he had this one person that was going to try to get into, I think, upper level college. And by changing a couple of things, he increased his bat swing by, I don't know how many miles an hour. But that's the difference between being caught a long fly ball, right, and going over the fence. That extra 5 miles an hour, or the speed of the swing. You add another mile per hour onto that swing, what a difference. So if you want to tune up your game, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I'll send it over to Jim. I will charge him a fee for that. So, and then he'll be able to. So now you don't even have to go out and meet with him. He'll be able to break it down. And so I think that's a game changer.
That's
Jim.
what coaches are doing now. And when Johnny Yandel came on the scene, Sampras had one of the great serves, and people were trying to imitate him. Oh, here. And finally, when they broke it down, they found out that it was the inner shoulder rotation that was really key to his serve. And he could measure the knee bend, how much knee bend, the racket drop, as we talked about the racket drop. We talked about it too much because that's the one I've been working on for, 40 years? Anyway, but the inner rotation right here and the pronation, but no one was looking at the shoulder until Johnny Andel. Anyways, we give credit to Johnny.
And there's a lot of tricks people have. In fact, it's funny because Jim and I talk about the racket drop all the time in tennis. Obviously, the lower the racket's dropping, the more speed you're going to have because it goes from point A to point B. But when I showed Jim and some of these girls, and they do the stop motion like you do, I couldn't believe how far that racket was down their back.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like way back. And now they're leaning back and they're looking up and they're arching their back, and they get such a tremendous amount of speed on that racket.
And they're coming with the edge, whereas my problem was the frying pan Jim at one time. But hey, that's the beauty of tennis. It's a deferred gratification. Where pickleball, it's more instant gratification. I like tennis, and by the way, I put the video and some pictures of my beautiful pickleball experience on Facebook. And Jerry is
okay. Jim, what's your Facebook page? What do you type in there? People
I think Coach Kane. You'd have to find Coach Kane. But what I was saying, what Jerry says, oh no, you went to the dark side. I think she was kidding, but I said I'm not. No, we coexist. Pickleball with a paddle, tennis with a racket. They're coexisting, and both are wonderful sports.
You could play both, right? There's no reason why
a lot of my friends do.
Why you can't play both? It's fun. What I liked about Route 12 Pickle, and again, I haven't been out to Sturbridge, but I like, again, the people are sitting around, they're and doing all kinds of stuff. Plus, I've got to mention Route 12 Pickle. Kelly Hamilton and I are doing seminars. We're doing one at the end of this month. We did a really good one. So if you want to come out, this health and wellness seminar, and we don't know what we're doing next. We're going to be doing something next, but you get free coaching because we'll be hanging around there afterwards. We talk about nutrition and stuff like that. I'm a biochemist. Kelly's an ICU nurse, and she's also a holistic nutritionist. So we hang around. In fact, we gave the seminar for an hour. We hung around another hour, Jim, because it was everybody were coming up and asking questions. And if you got any health, medical, nutrition questions, you get two, at least one expert with Kelly. I think I'm an expert.
I may go back again because you wrote some important information after you tested me. I misplaced it, so I may go back to visit you again.
One thing with testing. Talking about being younger, so there's something called the Horvath clock, and that's from Steve Horvath. And Steve Horvath is going to win the Nobel Prize for this. He's a biochemist. They found out very specific. You can need these labs that you get done at, you get done at the, at the doctor's office. I'm a clinical biochemist, so my specialty is lab work. So what I can do, I can look at those lab tests. That's what I did with Jim, and I can break it down. And there's your chronological age, how old you are in years. And then there's your biological age, how old you really are, how well you're aging. And so, Jim, how young were you?
8 years younger than my chronological age, and that was a pick-me-up. And I also understand I want God to be on my side. But you are absolutely right. The correlation between nutrition, exercise, and health.
And community.
You're on my case. And community.
And you get the community because
yes.
The other thing I love about, I deal with a lot of younger people too, mostly now with health coaching. But, I like dealing, I get a lot of, younger people give a different perspective and older people give a different perspective. And I think, well, hopefully, the other expression I tell Jim all the time, there's no substitute for experience. That's what it is. So you can have a lot of knowledge, but unless you experienced it, it's a different animal. So, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but the other thing is with you, don't you get a lot of satisfaction out of getting that kid? Let's talk a little bit about Brooke.
Well, it's not all about looking at somebody, I'm going to make her a champion. But what you're going to do, you're going to see Brooke's development, the confidence. Sometimes, to me, the confidence, she has a beautiful technique.
I've seen it. Incredible. Girls, a pro forehand, no doubt.
But at one time, full disclosure, her grandmother was looking around at different clubs. Is there an instructor, grandmother and the family, they really want the best for her. But Kevin Dunleavy up at Holden said, hey, what about Jim Kane? Where's Jim Kane? Oh, he's in Auburn. She's from Auburn. Well, her story is a beautiful story. She started, never played the game before. Yesterday, I was at her match. A week before that, I was at her match. She is a contributing member. But the part that I like, will she become a pro? Probably not. But the other part that we like of her story, besides her beautiful technique, is the fact that she had to recover from an absolute serious knee problem. They went to the best doctors in Boston. The whole family was shaken. She would never play the sport again. But the great doctors and Paul Reynolds stepped in. I recommended Paul Reynolds, Speed and Strength. We got to get that knee back. Then I recommended Lancaster as a place for her to practice. She worked her way back. Now she's back, and that makes me feel good. That makes the family feel good. And Brooke, being a confident person, that's to me what coaching's all about.
Yeah, and in fact, when Paul was on the show with the three girls we had here, I think they were soccer players. And what happened is with them is they all said the same thing about Paul. It was more to do with the confidence, that they had a lot more confidence. And I think that's the other thing. The other thing, as I mentioned, when I was at the tennis club, I was the poorest person up there. But I had the confidence because I was one of the top tennis players up there. So that gave me, I have something, they don't have, you know what I mean? So it gives you the confidence. And I think anybody, if you're really good at something, it kind of, it raises it up.
And it's a carryover. Pretty soon you're confident. I saw her prom pictures. Pretty soon you're confident because she's an artist. Pretty soon she's confident in the classroom. That's what coaching's all about, and that's what John Wooden says. Why do we teach? Why do we coach? Brooke is one reason, and there are a lot of people like Brooke.
Right, and the other thing, that's what Bill Belichick's done now. He wanted to go back to college because he could influence people's lives, and that's what it is. A pro's coming up, you can do some of that stuff, but coming up in college, it's the other thing that you can change, and that's what I'm not teaching tennis anymore, but I'm doing health coaching. I do a lot of health coaching with younger people. They got medical stuff, and that's what happened. And a lot of times that'll carry over to even life lessons. So I think we're coming up towards the end of the show, Jim. So we're going to do part two. We're going to get Brooke's video in there, and Jim's going to go over exactly how we did it and the different things we're doing on that. And so, Jim, if they want to reach you, how do they reach you?
Well, I'm Coach Kane at AOL.com, and that's really the best way. When you call me, sometimes that doesn't work because we're in a bad cell. But Coach Kane at AOL.com, and I'd be glad to talk about tennis, pickleball, and whatever, and any other sport because I played them all, as you know. I tried ping pong, I tried golf, I tried them all, and I just like sports, and I think sports can teach you a lot of lessons.
Right. Or if you want, you can email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I'll shoot it over to Jim. And again, it's spring, it's nice now. You can take it up. And again, the tennis, and you'll live longer. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Stick tuned for the next episode, and thanks for coming on, Jim.
Thank you very much.
One of the most common questions I'm asked as a biochemist and health coach is, what are the best supplements to take? Choosing supplements is a tricky business. Many companies have poor quality control and questionable ingredients. In the past, I had to send clients to several different websites. I am now able to offer one-stop shopping for all the quality brands I recommend with no shipping cost and a lower price in most cases. Just email me, philgeorge@charter.net for a free consult.